Welcome to the Deep Leadership Podcast. Today, I'm joined by Nicole Greer. Nicole is a principal, coach, and CEO of Build a Vibrant Culture. Her company specializes in helping individuals, corporations, faith-based organizations, and nonprofits fulfill their mission and exemplify vibrant leadership. She is on a mission to energize, impact, and influence people to lead a more vibrant life through engaging what's possible. And I'm excited to have her on the show today to talk about the idea of vibrant leadership and vibrant cultures. So, Nicole, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much, John, for having me here. I'm delighted.
Yeah, it's great to meet you. And this is a subject we haven't covered, so I'm excited to talk to you about it. And let's get started with how did you get started working with leaders and organizations? When did you make the shift, and why did you make the shift?
Well, the first time I ever worked with the leaders, the first day I ever got a job. And I had this wonderful guy named Mr. Sansone, who was the owner of the Baskin Robbins, in which I scooped ice cream for. And I tell a story. I have a little program called Vibrant Recruiting, and I share it with human resource leaders all the time who are trying to find great people right now. And I tell them, really the leader sets the tone. And we all know that, for how we're to behave. That old thing, John, lead by example, that is legit advice. Okay. So, Mr. Sansone, he just said, listen, watch what I do. And he was unbelievable. So I would say that's the first time I really realized leadership. And I think as a teenage young woman, I looked and I was like, oh, he's a little bit like my daddy. You don't appreciate the leadership of your parents oftentimes until you don't have it in your life, or you meet somebody else, you're like, oh, he's just like daddy. So I did that, but I got into the restaurant business. I consider that my very first restaurant job, working at Baskin Robbins. And then from there on out, I ended up working in many, many restaurants, and worked in Applebee's for a very long time and got promoted quickly. And I think it was because I shine, dare I say that about myself. And so that's what I mean when I say vibrant leadership. I just had a lot of energy, and I'm, basically a very positive person. So when I talk about building a vibrant culture, you're wanting to instill a positive mindset and allow people to use their talents and strengths to shine, to do really good work.
I love that. I love that. You say that you were fortunate to work with an exceptional leader early in your career. Explain a little bit about that story and how it impacted you.
Yeah, I'd be glad to. So when I interviewed with Mr. Sansone, I was, a very young person, and I walked in the store, and he made it a very formal experience. Here I am, really, really young, like I got dropped off by my father for the interview, And so I sat down with him, and he interviewed me in a very formal fashion, meaning that he was very serious about talking to me. He wasn't like, I need some young person to work in this store. In fact, a couple of things he said to me have stuck with me all these years. He said, Nicole, one of the things you need to understand about this ice cream store is that it supports the welfare of 4 families. And I'm like, okay. But like, I didn't really get that in that moment, because I'm nervous. I'm getting interviewed for one of the first times in my life. And so I went home and said that. And it's like, well, what he's trying to tell you is that you have to do a good job, because there are 4 families that are inside this business that are counting on you to do a good job, so that we can put a roof over our head, pay the electric bill, send people to college, do all the things that we want to do. And really, it was my first really big nugget of business acumen. These businesses that we work inside of, these organizations that we work inside of, they're supporting all of us. And if business does well, then we do well. So see, I think sometimes people forget that, that connection. So huge in my life. And so he was very serious. And then the second thing I'll just share real quickly is that when I got the job, which was a wonderful day in my life, I was like, oh my gosh, and here's the thing, he took it very seriously. So then I took it very seriously, and he gave me my little uniform. So for those of you who don't remember, back in the day, you wore a chocolate brown shirt, like Baskin Robbins chocolate brown shirt, and like a pink hat, and it had the logo on it that said 31. And he gave me my little uniform, and he put it on me, and he said, come here, I want you to put your uniform on, go in the ladies' room. And I did. And I put my uniform on. I came back out, and he put me in front of this mirror. And on the mirror, it said, are you ready to meet the customer?
Mm.
And so he said, look in the mirror. And I said, yes, sir. And so I looked in the mirror and he's like, you're going to need to pull your hair back. We have to, have health precautions and this kind of thing. And so I pulled my hair back, put my little hat on, put my little shirt on. And he said, no, that's exactly what I want you to look like every time you meet a customer. I was like,
Mm.
and then what did I say? Okay, yes, sir. you know, so he just, he set expectations, John. And I think that's a very, very important part of leadership is setting proper expectations.
Yeah, I love that. I love that story because there's so many things that he did right, like
Oh,
treating you like a person, first of all, not just a warm body to scoop ice cream, right? And then explain to you what the rules are, what the expectations are. And then I like here's the why. Here's why we're here, And I think a lot of times employees never hear the why. Like why like I took over my first manufacturing plant at 32 years old. And I noticed when I talked to employees, they say, I asked them, what do you do here? I plate this part, I machine this part, I drill this part, but they didn't know the why. Like they didn't understand what they were doing and how it impacted the bigger picture. And you're on your first day, you learned the why. And I think we fail to do that many times as leaders to explain why are we here? Why, well, how is this job essential to what we're trying to do in the world? And he did that on day one. I love that.
yeah, it was fantastic. And if I could share one more thing about Mr. Sanson, would that be all right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so he takes me, after I look at myself in the mirror, he takes me out and he says, now you watch me today, you just observe. And then at the end of the day, I'm going to ask you questions. So really be observing. And I think that is a huge piece of great advice for a brand new employee. Watch what's going on. Pay attention, like
Yeah.
invest paying attention. And so I did that. Now, at the end of the day, as we were cleaning up, he pulled out, and here's the fun thing. This was in Toledo, Ohio, on Tremainsville Road. This is where I had my first job. And in the city of Toledo, there's a huge company called Toledo Scale. In fact, if you went in
Yeah,
any place on America and
I
looked
know
at
it.
the name on the little scale, it would say Toledo Scale on it. So he pulled out a little Toledo scale and he put a weight on one side and he said, your job is to scoop, a 3-ounce ice cream ball. And he goes, you can't go over by more than 0.2 ounces and you can't be under by 0.2 ounces. And he's like, let me tell you why. Back to the why. And he said, because if it's too small, the customer's upset and they did not get their value
Mm.
of what they're paying for. And I was like, okay. And he's like, and you can't go over because we have this thing called food cost. When we determined how much an ice cream cone costs, we determined how much we would scoop and we have a profit in there. And I'm like, okay. I mean, I just listening to all this going, okay. And I'm like, there's my first lesson in profit, how to make a profit.
Mm.
My first lesson in how to provide value to the customer. And wow,
Yeah.
I got off on a really good foot. I feel so grateful to this man. He's popped off the planet now, but I feel so grateful that he taught me all these things. And it was so easy. We're going to be
Yeah.
in that room anyways, cleaning up, getting ready, shutting the store down. Why not teach?
I love that. I love that. It's a great lesson in onboarding and how that's essential in new employees understanding what you do and your why. And I love that example. It's fantastic. So let's take a shift into vibrant cultures. What is a vibrant culture? What does it look like when you're in a company that has a vibrant culture?
Yeah. When you're working inside a vibrant culture, you have people who are lit from within and they
Mm.
are happy and doing work they love with people they enjoy. And so that is a vibrant culture. And that's not pie in the sky stuff. It can be done and it needs to be very intentional. Now, one thing I want to say about culture that I think a lot of people are confused about culture, John. First of all, culture, you don't work on culture, you work on people and the people produce the culture.
Mm.
So it's one person at a time getting them lit from within. And so every single human that a leader works with, they need to have one-on-one time to, first of all, when like Mr. Sansone, he like like he lit the match and he set me on fire. He's like, we're supporting families and we're scooping ice cream and we're providing customer service. And this is, some of the best lessons you're ever going to get. And so I'm like, okay, so like, this is very exciting. It wasn't like, like I know people who've been on board. They're like, the people I got there, I didn't get my laptop for 6 weeks.
Yeah. I've got a similar
Like,
story. I mean, I tell about it in my book where I basically got a cubicle where the light was out. I got a stapler and no computer for weeks. And I didn't know why they hired me, to be honest. And it took my own just self motivation to figure out why they hired me. I almost quit. I'm like, well, I don't know why I'm here, and so I have just the opposite experience as yours. And this is working for a very large global company that you would expect that they would have an onboarding process. They did not. And so I had just the opposite. When I first left the military and went into corporate America, I had the opposite training that you had. It was like, I didn't even know why they hired me. So it's wild. So yeah, and just a simple thing was spending time and explaining, here's what you do, here's why we do it, and here's what my expectations are. Here are the rules of the game. I mean, just simple things like this can get people to really on board with what you're trying to do as an organization. And the thing is, you're spending a lot of money recruiting and finding these people. I mean, I had advanced degrees. I was an engineer. I had a nuclear engineering training. I was someone special they were hiring, and they didn't tell me what to do. I literally had no idea why they hired me. It's interesting. So yeah.
yeah.
So yeah, it's a shame that what people do. But I love what you say there is that the leaders light the fire, and it's within it. It's the individual has got a fire burning in themselves, and they're doing what they love to do. And I think when we look at the amount of employee engagement in most companies today, it's pretty low. And I think a big part of it is we don't light the fire. We don't figure out what the people's passions are and make sure that they can bring that, what they're good at and what they love to do, to work. We tell them just do this, and if and don't ask questions, and I think we don't let them bring their full self to work. And it sounds like a vibrant culture is where people are allowed to bring their whole self to work and they're doing what they love.
Absolutely. Yeah. And your story, at one point in your story, which I loved, thank you for sharing that with me. You said, thank God I was motivated inside,
Yeah.
because see, here's the thing about a brand new employee. They're pretty much lit when you get them. Like
Yeah.
that's the beautiful thing. Like, and all you've got to do is, you've been out in the woods in Maine, I think you told me, right? And so like, you're rubbing your two sticks together, or you're lighting your match, or you're using your magnifying glass in the sun. I don't know how you're lighting your fire, but then you got to lean down and go,
Yeah.
and really all you have to do is breathe. And that's the part where Mr. Sansone was like, let me tell you why I'm doing this. Let me tell you. He just breathed on me, that, not to be weird, but like, he told me what was going on and set those expectations. And here's the thing. Back to the thing about the vibrant culture in terms of it's one person at a time, because here's what I know. All the companies I've gone out and consulted with, I'll talk to the leader who needs my help, and they'll say, I got a really good team, but there's this one person. And I'm like, uh-oh. And I'm like, what about that person? And they're like, well, he's got a lot, or she's got a lot of institutional knowledge or whatever. And, we try to keep him or her over siloed in this corner or whatever the thing is. And I'm like, oh, no. You got to, and here's my philosophy on a vibrant culture. You got to coach them in, or you got to coach them out.
Yeah.
But you have to get in there and you have to light the fire over and over. At some point, the person's going to either do one of two things. They're going to receive, you're going to pass the torch, that old saying, pass the torch. You're going to pass the torch to them, and they're going to be sitting there holding the torch like, I'm on board. I'm ready to go. I'm with the team. Or you're going to have people that are like, it's too hot in here.
Yeah.
And so I'm out. And so, the question that leaders really need to ask themselves is, if somebody is a great technician or has a huge body of knowledge in their brain, but they have a bad attitude and they are negative, um,
Uh-oh.
a good employee. People that often, if they have a terrible attitude and they have great knowledge, they have to fix the attitude. Period. Exclamation point. I will arm wrestle people over this, because that ickiness of that attitude gets off on everybody. And so I have like a little joke. If you were in a meeting and everybody in the meeting had experienced you before, and it was like a meeting that was like a one-off, a new project or something, and John walks in the room, everybody's like, oh my gosh, John's on this project, oh my god, it's gonna be great, because John has like ideas, he's funny, he's great to get along with, he does what he says he's gonna do, he has follow through. I love working with John. And then in work walks Susan, and everybody goes, oh god, Susan.
The air goes out of the room. Yeah.
Yeah, they're like, they invite, yeah. And see, here's the thing. I love what you just said, because have you ever done that experiment? Okay, let's all go back to science class. Have you ever done that experiment where you had the candle and you put the cloche, the glass cloche over top of the candle? You said all the air went out of the room. Susan is a glass cloche. She comes in and she stinks up the air in there, and all the oxygen gets burned out, and the light and the flame goes out. And see, you can't have that.
Yeah.
You can't settle for that. And I'll say one more thing about that is, and you can't settle for it, because you know what? All the people in the room, they thought you were a genius a second ago when you invited John on the project. And now they think you're not so bright.
Yeah.
And when Susan walks in, she's like a little ray of gray.
Yeah.
And so you've got to be working with people one-on-one, shaping them. Peter Drucker said, every organization is forming their people, whether it's intentional or unintentional. And we're either forming them or deforming them. It's all forming.
Interesting. Yeah. And what the leader does, it sends the message, right? So if we say that, I think her name was Susan, Susan was, it's acceptable for Susan to be here and be on this project, we're saying that it's acceptable to bring that level of negative energy to the team. And we're saying that's okay. And so other people who might be good employees might say, well, if Susan can not bring her full self to work, I'm not going to bring my full self to work. And then it's contagious. So it's the, in my first book, I talk about firefighting on a submarine. We were taught to run towards the fire. Don't ignore it, because it can get dangerous and get out of control. And same thing with people. If you don't address the issue, it can be a fire that can really hurt your culture. And so everything we do, I love what you said, we're either forming or deforming based on our actions as leaders.
That's 100% right. And I'll tell you a true story. I'll change the names to protect the innocent, but we were going to have this team building session. And here's the thing. It's the first time this leader has ever had team building, brought in an outside facilitator like myself. We're going to do this thing called the 4 elements. And it's a personality profile that's a lot like doing a Myers-Briggs or a DISC or many of the various and sundry things out there. This was just happened to be called the 4 elements. And so I'm going to come. And so the leader is all excited because he got it approved. And this is a big breakthrough. Don't miss all this. Big breakthrough. First time we're doing this. We're going to, he is the right kind of leader, kind of. And so the day comes, and Mr. X on the team doesn't show up. And the leader's like, where's X? X isn't here. Let's find out where X is. X must be late. Let's make sure X is okay. So we don't start on time. Don't miss that. And everybody in the room was like, X. And so we're looking for Mr. X. And so turns out he's decided to work from home today.
Wow.
And so the leader's like, well, we're having this meeting and I sent you the Teams invite and the stuff and the thing. And he's like, oh, I've already done this in my career. I'm not coming.
Oh, wow.
Oh, I was like, you got to get this guy here. And so the leader's like, get in your car and come to work. And he's like, no, I don't think I will.
Oh, jeez.
Later
Wow.
on, I found out that nothing was done about it.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, and here's the thing, you know how, I don't know if you're hearing this, John, but again, about vibrant cultures, one of the things is that not only does the leader know the individuals, but the individuals know each other. So I've got lots of little exercises and things I do to help people get to know each other at a very cool level. Um, but you know, this whole thing about like there's 4 generations in the workplace right now, and you know, millennials and Gen Zs and all this stuff, and they don't, you know, I don't know about all that, because I love anybody who works hard and is fun and has a good time at work. I love anybody who's doing all that. I don't really look at your wrinkles or your lack of wrinkles or whatever. But the thing about it is like I hear all the time an older person, somebody my age, I'm 56, and they will talk about the 20-year-olds in a very poor way.
Mm,
And like, just think about Mr. X. He's my age and he totally disses the training. I mean, what is that young person supposed to think about him?
yeah. Yeah.
And then to not respect the young people by showing them, leading the way. Oh, I'll
Mm,
come to training, even though I've done this before. Because doesn't he want his young people to get the personality training? I don't understand.
yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think and again, I think it's one, a lot, oftentimes I always say there's puzzle pieces that don't fit in our puzzle, and that's a puzzle piece that just doesn't fit. And so even if they have great institutional knowledge, it may be best to find other, he may need to find, like you said, lead his way out of the organization, because again, it's really affecting the overall culture when you have someone that says, I just don't feel like it. That's not good. And especially if it's allowed, for sure. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And you know, they talk about these young people are so entitled. This guy just is so entitled. He's not even going to come to the building today.
Yeah. 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 That's wild. That's wild.
Ah, no. So anyway,
When,
and so lit is important.
when you have a vibrant culture, so when you have employees that are happy, they love their job, they like the mission of the organization, they're on board with that mission, they're fulfilling their full potential, they're doing what they enjoy to do. What is the performance level of the organization like when you have that vibrant culture working and you're firing at all cylinders, and you don't have that one or two employees that are dragging you down, but everybody's on board, everybody's firing? What's it like, and what do companies, how do those companies perform?
Well, first thing I would say is it's fun. It's
Yeah.
enjoyable. And I don't know about you. I've worked a day in my life and I thought, wow, the day really flew past.
Yeah.
And then I've worked days and I was like, that was the longest day ever. And it usually wasn't related to the work. It
Mm,
was related to the humans that I was hanging out with. So I think productivity goes through the roof when the people are happy. So one of the things that I do when I do leadership development is I show a lot of little really simple models, because I'm trying to get people to visualize what I'm trying to say. So I have this very simple model where it's a line going up and down, and at the top there's an arrow pointing up, and at the bottom there's an arrow pointing down, and I call it the feeling scale. And you know, at the top of the feeling scale is this feeling called euphoric. Okay,
mm,
so it's that feeling like, you know, like there's not even a word for it. You just sucks your breath in, and you're, smiling, and you're like, whoa, it's awesome. And I ask leaders all the time, how many euphoric moments are we creating? Like, people are like, oh, we pulled it off, we did it, it was amazing.
yeah.
you know so we've got to be very intentional about creating up the feeling scale type environments, right? Because here's what I know: when people feel good, they're ready for more. Like, they can even be tired and they'll do more because they're winning, they're achieving, they're having a good time. And I don't know anybody on planet Earth that doesn't want to come home and go, look what I did today. I mean,
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
when we were little kids, I don't know what you did, John, but I walked in the door, I got an A. I got an
Yeah.
A today.
Yeah.
And then I'm like ready to go back to school, where that's the place where I succeed. And
Yeah.
so it's exciting. Now, down the feeling scale, and I'm not making a joke here, at the bottom of the feeling scale is this word called suicidal. Now, if you hang out with all my HR pals, they'll tell you that suicide, it's at an all-time high. And it's not a joke. I mean, people don't think there's a reason to live. I mean, come on, this is serious. And
Yeah.
people may not be suicidal at your workplace, but if they're sad, they're mad, they're unglad, they think Larry is a jerk, they think Mr. X is a jerk, they think Susan's a jerk, whatever, they don't bring their full selves, like the words that you just had come out of your mouth. And so in a vibrant culture, where we are tied together and we are all lit, we all know why we're doing what we're doing, we're seriously productive, we have better ideas, better energy, and get more done. And here's the thing, let's go back to Mr. Sansone. When you get more done, when you sell more ice cream cones, you make more money and everybody benefits.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's business acumen. People are not understanding that. And I'm a big proponent. One of the things I also teach and build a vibrant culture is to have open books. I think it's very important to explain to people how the money is working, because if your business is making a bunch of money and your people are not asleep, they see the money. Okay, they see the money coming in the door. They know this big part went out and it cost however many dollars, like in manufacturing. You have these big parts going out the door. Somebody's buying this stuff, and you know that, but you don't know how it all works. So a good example is I work with a manufacturing organization in Denver, North Carolina. They just got one. This is how they said it: one big robot and three little ones. Because that's how they talked to me about it. You know how much that one big robot and the three little ones were? Millions of dollars.
Yeah.
Now we have to explain to people, we are selling this product. We have expenses, we have net operating income, and then we have this thing called capital expenditures. And that's what the big robot and the little robots were. And
Yeah.
then underneath that is cash flow. And
Yeah.
so the average, you tell me if I'm wrong, John, you were in manufacturing, the average person in the manufacturing organization doesn't understand that whole thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they think the guys, at the top are on a yacht.
It's interesting because I ran 8 different manufacturing. This is my 9th manufacturing business, my own that I started 7 years ago. But I run 9 different manufacturing businesses, and one thing I've always done is all employee meetings every month, right? And I've always shared the financials and how the company's doing, why they're doing. One of the things I've found though is, especially with blue collar workers, is I like try to explain money in terms of things that they would recognize. Like I would talk about like our scrap for the month. I would say I would have put up a picture of a car. And I'm like, all right, see, this is a Ferrari. This here Ferrari is worth, I don't know, $70,000. That's how much scrap we had this month. And do that's not good. And I think it just using analogies like that and showing something that's more relatable than say $70,000. It seems like a lot of money, but I don't know what that is. But that helped people gauge some of the messaging I was trying to do, is put it in terms that it's easy to understand. It's kind of fun. You can have fun with it too. And like, oh, we only bought we bought a used Pinto last month. We're getting better, at this. And so, I think doing some of that added a little bit of color and fun, and it's a little less boring and dry than cash flow statements. Because I think even I would say even guys that went to school for accounting don't want to see cash flow statements. You know what I mean? So make it interesting, make it fun, and keep. I love the fact that you say keep open books, and we do that. I do that in my current business right now. I actually put out the cash flow forecast for every week, every Monday morning. Here's what's coming in, here's what's going out, here's what's in the bank, and so everybody knows where we stand. And I think it's a good way to be. It's a better way to be. So it's sort of open books. Here's where we're at. Here's what we need to do this month. Here's what we have to do this week. And I think it helps people understand the business, the ins and outs of the business better, for sure.
I couldn't agree more. Yeah, because even if you have somebody who is highly educated, they are, for example, I was working with a dentist last month. Dentists don't go to business school; they go to dental school.
Yeah.
And so if you hire an associate dentist, you have to explain to this young woman, "Hey, listen, this drill you're using." In fact, one of the dentists I was working with, he said that he had like this cord hanging off. The thing that goes in your mouth and sucks
Yeah.
that thing. And so the cord was like hanging down and it was on the floor. And the young lady that was working with him kept rolling over it with her chair. And he was like, wait, hold on. Like it alarmed him greatly because he knew how much the cord was. And so he's like, you can't roll over that cord. It costs this much money back to your, and, he could have said, this is the same as like 8 lattes at Starbucks or whatever,
Exactly.
whatever she can relate to.
Yeah.
But it's like, people, was she meaning to roll over the little cord? No, she's in there nervous. She's working with her new boss, and so, that's the thing. My main thing for Build a Vibrant Culture is spending one-on-one time with your employees, because, John, a lot of leaders will say, why don't they think the way I think? Because you haven't sat with them and told them why you think the way you think.
Yes.
They got to understand.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. One thing I noticed, I was looking through some of your social media, and I love it, by the way. You got great social media. We'll put links to that in the show notes, but you had on Instagram, and I want to ask you about it. You said, celebrate your people, not just their accomplishments at work. Explain what you mean by that.
Oh, yeah. So, here's the thing. People have two motivations in the workplace. Okay. One is, I'm a career person. That's who I've always been. I think that's who you are. If I had to roll the dice, I'd say you're a career, military and everything. So, it's like, I want to have a career, not a job. And it's okay to have a job. It's totally fine. Now, most people have a job to support something outside of their work life. And we need people doing things outside of business to make the community beautiful, the world beautiful. And so I'll give you an example that just happened. Last 3 days, I was working with a manufacturing organization, and I was doing what they call expertise and leadership training. So we're doing change management, emotional intelligence, all this stuff. And so had this one woman in there. Now, don't miss this. It's leadership development. This woman's in there. She's been with the company 29 years. Finally, somebody's like, she should probably go to that.
Oh, wow.
And she's going to be there another 10. I mean, like, she literally started when she was 18 in this building. So anyway, so she is fantastic. Well, she works on the production floor, and she has institutional knowledge out the wazoo, 29 years, but she's also a love. She's absolutely delightful, and she loves to bake cakes. And so when I post that on social media, it's kind of like, we need to probably be telling everybody that she has this cake business, because all weekend long, she bakes beautiful wedding cakes and birthday cakes and this kind of thing. It's never interfered with her job for 29 years. Why wouldn't we tell the world and all the people that we know in the North Carolina area that she bakes these cakes? So Mala is her name. And so yesterday she surprised us all, and she brought us this red velvet cake that would knock your socks off. It's beautifully decorated. And she's like, I just brought this for y'all. And we're just like, and so everybody's so happy in training. But, she's never going to be I don't think, if she wants to, maybe when she retires, but like, she loves her workplace family, and she loves making 2-3 cakes on the weekend. It's her thing. Yeah. And so we celebrate what they do. A lot of times people have a child, they buy a new home, they do all these things that Mr. Sansone was talking about. This business supports, these 4 families, or these 400 families, or 4,000 families. So look, we're all working our butts off here, but look, he just bought his first home. If you work here, you work in a reliable company where the numbers are good. In fact, we'll show you the numbers. There's open books. And you can work here, and you can save your pennies, and you can buy a house. We have stability. We love each other. We're all lit. We're all making it happy. We're nowhere in this life together. And so I think you should definitely do that. And I think too, last thing about that, because see how passionate I'm getting, John, I'm sorry, is, sometimes people do something amazing on the job that surprises us. And I want to tell you something. I think one of the best things about people who are lit is they're emanating light. And when you emanate light, you can kind of look around and see what needs to be done. You know that old thing, don't wait to be told what to do. Look around, see what needs to be done. And in the restaurant business, if there was a dirty dish on your the other server on the shift, you would go by her table and take the empty plate away. We just help each other out, right? So you look around, you see what needs to be done. Well, leaders, and it's that old thing of managed by walking around that comes out of that old book by Ken Blanchard, 1 Minute Manager. If you catch people doing right, you should celebrate it. You should show people, because then you'll get more of that.
Mm.
So it's just these little things you can do that are so powerful, that get people lit. You notice I'm doing something good, it stokes my fire.
Absolutely. Such a great, powerful message. I love that. In fact, I've got a chapter in my first book called Celebrate Employees. So it's interesting that we
Yeah.
think a lot alike, because it's very important. I've been doing it for years, and it's interesting to see, see the reaction of employees when you notice something about them. You notice that even if it's outside of work, and accomplishments, absolutely important, very important for building that rapport, building a great culture. Building a great workplace for sure. What final message would you like to leave with our listeners about what you do, and this idea of vibrant cultures and vibrant leadership?
Yeah, I'd be glad to. Yeah, one of the things that I just would really encourage you to do is maybe start now, because 2024 will be here before we turn around. I mean, can you believe what today is? It's July 21st. I can't believe it. So is to set up a formal employee performance process. And I don't mean once a year reviews. I mean making sure that there's time on the calendar to sit with people for at least 15 minutes up to an hour, regularly calendared, where you can sit down, you can formally put goals in place for that person, places for them to grow, to look at what's possible. And then in between those times, you're going to encourage them to make the possible probable. And then you sit with them again. And the leader who is a vibrant leader is going to get lit, lead with clarity. Here's what I want you to do for the next space of time. And then they say, here's where you're doing so well. Here's the quality of character it's going to take to get this done. And we didn't talk about character, but I think it's a huge thing. So I is for integrity. And then T, we're going to transform what's ordinary. On my watch, you're going to be extraordinary. You're going to be amazing. So if you want to buy a house, get a Ferrari, bake a cake, whatever it is you want to do with your life, I'm here to help. I'm your leader. So I'm going to develop you. I'm going to help you get lit. So you can't keep a fire burning if you don't throw a log on the fire. And so I would say that. And the last little tidbit is, I love to share this wherever I go. I had a wonderful human in my life, and I've been very blessed. But on the other hand, you have to go seek out great people to work for. You got to get with the good people, good companies, good mentors, good stuff. You got to go find it. You can't sit around and complain about it. Don said to me, Nicole Greer, uncommunicated expectations are a premeditated opportunity to be disappointed.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh my gosh, that's money. And so don't sit around complaining about stuff. Go out there, set the tone, set the expectations, ask people what they're going to do, get some goals in place, and just talk about it. And it's amazing how people will get passionate or fired up about what they're doing.
Fantastic. Great advice, solid advice, something to do as you get ready to, as we close out this year, get ready for the next year, something you can do to really elevate your game as a leader and elevate your team's performance by actually spending time with your people. Amazing. It's not that hard, but sometimes we don't do it. We ignore it. We forget. So
yeah, my son has the same. He's like, it's not brain rocket science. And I'm like, that's exactly right.
yeah, exactly. That's exactly it. All right. Well, very good. How can listeners find out more about you and the services you provide?
Yeah, absolutely. So just simply go over to www.vibrantculture.com and you'll find my website, and I have a podcast there. I have blog posts. I have all the stuff. And then also the best place to find me is probably on LinkedIn. If you're listening to this, I bet you're a leader. I bet you got a LinkedIn profile. And if you just go there and put Nicole Greer, and it's 2 R's and 2 E's in Greer, Greer, I'll pop right up. And I'd love to be linked in with you.
Absolutely. We'll go ahead and put links in the show notes for all of those resources. And I highly encourage you, if you're listening in, to connect with Nicole, connect with her social media. There's a lot of good stuff on there and a lot of things that are going to make you think and remind you of what you need to do to create a vibrant culture and to create a vibrant workplace. So I highly encourage you to check out her resources, connect with her on LinkedIn and other social media if you really want to continue to grow as a leader and to continue to build a great team. Nicole, I really appreciate you coming on the show. I really appreciate your insight and helping us understand a little bit more about what it takes to build a vibrant culture. Thanks for coming on the show.
John, I'm grateful for you and grateful for your time, and everybody have what I call a vibrant day.
Outstanding. I love it. Well, that's it for today. Thank you for listening to Deep Leadership. If you like this podcast, please subscribe and share so we can continue to build a world with better bosses. Until next time, this is John Rennie saying take care and lead well.